So Keanin, why don't we start with you? Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you found yourself in Hamilton?
Yeah, well, so I was the voice of business in Hamilton over the last 10 years, being the president and CEO of the Hamilton Chamber of Commerce. So very much a part of the renewal that this city has been experiencing. And that was very rewarding experience. But as I've said along the campaign trail, that after 10 years of doing that while raising a family in this community, I just got really fed up with banging my head against the wall at City Hall, and decided to step up and be the change that we needed to see as a community. We have so many challenges, but so many great opportunities as a community. And I ask, like so many other people here in Hamilton, imagine how much more we could be if we had great leadership at City Hall, how we could tackle our challenges, how we could take advantage of those great opportunities. And so I stepped down in January. I was all in for this entire year. And now it's quite surreal that we find ourselves less than 3 weeks away from the election and well into debates, and it's finally coming.
Can we go back before the chamber?
Sure.
How'd you meet your wife? You said you came here in 2009 to raise a family. Can you tell me a little bit about your background? I believe you were a lawyer.
Yes, I was a lawyer. I went to law school in Virginia, practiced law in Washington, D.C. But before that, we met at the University of Waterloo as students, very active in student life. And it was great to be able to find my soulmate at university. We went down to Virginia together as well. But in 2009, after we had our second child, we decided it was more important for us to be closer to our families. It was around that time as well that I started to realize that I really wanted to be living in Canada, raising my children in Canada, not just closer to their families, my family in London and my wife's family here in Hamilton, but to be Canadian in their value set as well. I've spent a lot of time in the U.S., a lot of time here in Canada, and this is by far the more preferred place to live, and that was really dramatic during the pandemic. I felt so fortunate to be here in this community, in this country, especially as things are unraveling down south.
Yeah. And when you came to Hamilton in 2009 and started your life here, and I guess even up to now, what's your family in London think of you setting up this new life in a city that they're not connected to, and now you're running for mayor?
Yeah, well, they're just happy that we're closer to them. An hour away is nice to be able to pop over for holidays or birthdays or that sort of thing. So we make the drive down the 403 and 401 quite often. But they're really happy for me. It's surprised by like a whole lot of other people, but understanding that I found my calling here in Hamilton. When I first arrived here, I didn't expect that this is where I was going to be or where I was going to be able to really find a new and more rewarding career path. I really did think it was to the north of here and in Toronto, but I really quickly fell in love with this community, and it shows. And so, my family, my parents, my mother was just here for the weekend helping out because the campaign trail is heating up and we need help at home more than anything, laundry to be done. And so I was really appreciative of that. But just so happy that, I have found my groove, and that I'm really happy here. And this is where I'm able to contribute.
That's great. So switching back to your years at the Chamber of Commerce, why do you think your time at the Chamber has prepared you to be mayor?
Well, it's one of the only roles in Hamilton that serves the entire community, right? Being the voice of Hamilton business means that I've been advocating for businesses and for the general economy of Hamilton. And you think about that, there's no other political role in Hamilton other than mayor that does serve the entire community. So that's a fairly easy transition. It is a very political job, even though I wasn't a politician as the president and CEO of the chamber, but very much a job that requires us to bring all stakeholders in this community together around strengthening our local economy, and very much a part of learned a lot in terms of how advocacy at the provincial level, advocacy at the federal level as well. The Canadian Chamber Network, the Ontario Chamber Network are very active in our communities, in our province, and in our country as well. And so for me, this was just the next logical step in terms of being able to take my advocacy to a much broader platform.
And you've talked about advocacy during your first answer and now again, so I'm maybe you've already said it, but I am curious, why do you want to be mayor? It's got to be a demanding job. Everybody's going to criticize you one way or the other. You kind of can't win no matter what you do. Why would you take this on? You got a family, you had a great job with the chamber.
I did. I often said I had the best job in the world. And it's true, because I had the best job in the best community in the best country in the world. I think for me, it was a lot of frustration, especially over the last 4 years, seeing how much more we could be as a community and how there were limits to my advocacy at the Chamber of Commerce, and just realizing that there's a huge vacuum in leadership at City Hall, and feeling that I was the best person within this community to step up and fill that vacuum. Knowing the work that I had done with so many leaders in this community, my in-depth knowledge of all the issues here as well. So that's to me what is I have come to learn as my vocation. I went to law school for a purpose. I realized that it really helped activate the advocate within me. And my vocation now is leader, and as I said, I gravitate towards vacuums in leadership, and we have a big one in City Hall that needs to be filled.
Let's go through your platform a little bit. Tell me, what do you think is your most important campaign promise?
I think the biggest one, certainly you've seen us, announce that we're going to build 50,000 new homes in Hamilton over the next 10 years. We're going to create a more responsive City Hall by implementing a 311 system here in this community. We announced as well that we're going to fix the roads, because that is, such a problem in people's everyday lives here in Hamilton. But the biggest one for me is addressing the culture in City Hall. It's a toxic workplace right now, and it has been for a really long time. And it's impacting how we do all of those other things that need to be done in this community. So for me, that's the very first thing that we need to address. Thankfully, we have an incredible opportunity, because we're going to have at least 7 new voices around that council table. So we have a moment that we need to take advantage of and make sure that it's very clear that it's not going to be business as usual in City Hall. And then to be able to attract the talent that we have in this community, and the talent from outside this community as well, that wants to live here and contribute by working in the civil service here with the City of Hamilton. That's what we need as a community. That's what I've been doing at the Chamber of Commerce, attracting talent within the local economy as well. And that's going to allow us to be able to really address all of the issues that we have in this community.
50,000 is a big number. How do you achieve that? During the debate, you said you were pushed by Ms. Horvath about that number, suggesting perhaps that it's unachievable. Why do you think it is achievable, and how are you going to do it?
Well, first of all, we need to set an ambitious goal, and we need to set a goal and measure our progress related to that. As we know in business, that which does not get measured does not get done, right? And so we need to do that. It was based upon what the province is requiring of us as a community, and based upon what we need as a community as well. And it's roughly double what we're doing right now. Now, we know that there are so many bottlenecks in City Hall. All you have to do is talk to the development community. They all have projects that have languished in City Hall because of the red tape that we have, because of the workforce, and the fact that we have so much more we need so much more capacity in City Hall. I talked about how people are leaving and going elsewhere. So we know if we can address those challenges, we can actually achieve it. And we have to. It's absolutely necessary that we set an audacious goal and we work towards it because that is the biggest driver of unaffordability in this community.
Okay, so let's dial in a little bit on cutting red tape. How do you do that while still ensuring that the inspections and development paperwork is given the right amount of attention to make sure everyone's still safe?
Well, one of the things that's really, well, it's not easy, but it's something that needs addressing is the zoning in this community. So the zoning for much of the community is based upon the 1950s bylaws that we put in place. And of course, there's been so much that has happened since then in terms of the creation of the green belt and the official plan for Hamilton and all of that. So our zoning hasn't kept pace, and we're still stuck, as I said, in the 1950s. So it prevents us from doing a lot of things. So if we can just address that by pre-zoning, allowing for the creation of more gentle density within the already built up areas, we will be able to make the proposals and the projects that we need to address the housing shortages. We'll be able to get them going a lot quicker and without a lot of unnecessary expense up front. And as I said, a lot of it as well has to do with, we just don't have the workforce capacity within City Hall at this point in time. So that bottleneck itself, it causes a lot of delays. So there's all kinds of things that we could be doing, really big picture stuff, really small detail stuff as well. But the thing is, we don't have to go far. I have been working with the development community, with the business community to understand where a lot of those blockages are. And we just need to work methodically in clearing them.
And the money you want to pump into the development office, that's for staffing to address the staffing shortage that you're speaking of?
Yeah, so we have bottlenecks as well when it comes to businesses wanting to come here to Hamilton. We know that we need to expand the commercial tax base as well as the residential tax base. And we have a lot of businesses that are interested in coming here to Hamilton, just like we have a lot of people that are interested in moving to Hamilton. And we have these amazing areas in this community that are ripe for development. McMaster Innovation Park, which is right over here. We know that there's a lot of stuff going up on 5 and 6, where you guys now are, within our business parks at the Hamilton, the industrial waterfront, and in our downtown as well. So there's all kinds of opportunities, but it's just again, our city doesn't have the capacity internally to be able to roll out the red carpet for these folks. The Hamilton Economic Development Department's budget was increased to $1 million in about 2013, and it remains at that level right now. And that has paid off. We're now, we were celebrating $1 billion in permits each year. We're now close to $2 billion in permits, and yet their budget hasn't gone up. And so we need to be able to increase that budget. And that's one of those investments that will, very easily pay off within a couple of years.
So how do your plans to boost the economy, how's that going to translate into helping people who are struggling in this city to get by with the high cost of goods? Maybe they don't have the best paying job. How do your economic plans help those people?
Well, jobs is everything, right? So we need houses for people, and as they come here to Hamilton, but we need jobs for them as well. We can't assume, and we don't, nor do we want people to be commuting, elsewhere. Some people, might be willing to, but for the most part, people want to be living and working and playing in one community, right? So jobs is a huge part of it, and good paying jobs as well. And not just new jobs, but making sure that we maintain the jobs that we have here as well. Manufacturing is, that our identity is built on steel and on building and making things in this community. And we can still maintain those jobs here. We must maintain those jobs. You saw, when Donald Trump put tariffs on Canadian steel, I was one of the biggest advocates for steel here in Canada. And because it's important that we maintain that identity, maintain those 10,000 jobs that work directly in steel, but also support 40,000 other jobs in this community. Now, there's a lot of criticism as to how steel gets made now in 2022. It's a carbon-heavy sort of process. But there's ways that we can green that process using hydrogen, and that's what we need to be doing. And we have ArcelorMittal Dofasco willing to make that investment. We have the federal government willing to make that investment. We need to get the provincial government to invest in this, and the city needs to be doing a bunch of things as well to facilitate that. But as we do that, we build a hydrogen hub in this community as well, and we build models that we can then export to other jurisdictions.
Switching to safer streets, some commentators have said a lot of the problem is with the culture of drivers in Hamilton. People not taking the rules of the road seriously, driving too fast, whatever it may be. How do you convince people to drive safer? I know there's a lot of plans in your platform addressing road safety, but how do you get the hearts and minds of people to be more careful when they're out on the roads?
I think you really need to appeal to drivers. You need to understand that, look, I'm not lecturing you here. I'm a driver myself. But you need to, when you're going through my community and my neighborhood, you need to pretend like it's your neighborhood. And I'll do the same to you. This is something that has really been exacerbated over the course of the pandemic. So I think that, we've talked about how the pandemic has broken a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And I think this is one of those instances. But it's not just necessarily about driver behavior. Our streets have been really designed to optimize vehicular throughput. And if that's the only thing we're measuring, then we're going to do everything we can to make sure that people can get through the city, very quickly. And that's not what that's not the ingredient to a vibrant community. Downtown needs to be a destination, not a drive-through. And so there's ways in which we can address the safety of our streets through engineering, through lowering the speed limit, through enhanced enforcement as well. So it's definitely a full suite of things that we need to be doing to address this. But I listen to I'm a Mets fan, and so I listen to ball games, in New York, and they have Vision Zero commercials in between the breaks, and just reminding people. And I think if you do that over and over again, people start to get that and understand that and develop the empathy that we need them to have when they're driving through residential neighborhoods like this.
So if you became mayor, could we potentially see an ad campaign to remind people about Vision Zero here in the city of Hamilton?
Yeah, we certainly need to appeal to people in that way. And again, not lecturing. We're not trying to lecture, but that couple minutes that you might save isn't worth injuring or even worse, killing somebody on our streets. And I think that when I talk about how my biggest concern when my kids leave the house every single morning and go out into the world. There's a lot of things that parents worry about, but my biggest concern is just them crossing Aberdeen here. And I'm always telling them, and they do the eye roll as kids do, but I would hate that if they left the house without me reinforcing that message to them. And so I think that's just really important for people to develop that sort of empathy. And understanding that this is a residential area, drive like that.
Hamilton continues to deal with its problem with racism. We continue to have incidents of hate in our city. What is your plan to address racism and Hamilton's hate problem?
Well, the first thing we need to do is make sure that people who promote hate do not feel welcome in our community, especially using city property. We, for far too long, allowed people to set up in front of City Hall espousing hateful rhetoric, and that only spiraled out of control to the point where we had a hate incident at Pride in 2019, and that's because we didn't nip it in the bud when we should have. So certainly making it clear that hate has no home here in Hamilton, and supporting the groups that are advocating behind not only that, but also advocating for equity-seeking folks in our communities, helping them build capacity so that they can continue to serve their communities and know that they have the full support of the city and of the mayor behind this. I think those are really important aspects to that. I have had such an incredible privilege of being able to get to know so many groups and individuals in this community over the course of this campaign, beyond what I did as the president and CEO of the Hamilton Chamber of Commerce, and really listening to folks about their lived experience understanding that I don't have the answers and I don't have those perspectives, right? It's difficult for me to truly understand. But if you listen to those folks, and first of all, they're just happy that somebody is actually listening, happy that somebody is actually showing up. And I think showing up is, at least half the battle here. But following through, building those relationships and being able to talk to each other as we deal with various incidents that happen in this community, and then making sure that the Hamilton Police Services is able to, has all the tools necessary and is tracking these hate crimes as well, and enforcing them fully.
I wanted to ask you about this. So what are you going to do if the province decides, let's say you're elected and the province decides we're not going to allow Hamilton to maintain the urban boundary? Because ultimately they could overrule us. What are you going to do if that happens?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is tell them that we have a plan. We have a plan to build the density that we need, to build the homes that we need here in Hamilton. So they're requiring us to build about 100,000 new units in Hamilton over the next 25 years to be that city of 800,000 people. I want to show them the plan that we have to do that within the current urban boundary. Give us those tools to be able to do that, to be able to intensify, and let's really focus on saving our farmland. We know that agriculture is important. Food security is really important to us as a province. And it's as well an export opportunity. A lot of commodities that right now are being grown on our farmland on top of meeting our own basic needs. So it's a matter of economics as well. I want to be able to convince the provincial government that we can do that, because that's exactly what the city wants. And so they need to honor that, the desire of this community to save our urban environment. And it's far more economical, and most people understand that. And so if we can put that case together, I think that the provincial government would see that and give us the tools to be able to intensify.
You would be defending the urban boundary if it comes down to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to kind of switch to the campaign a little bit. You've got a big announcement coming up today, I'm told. Can you tell me a little bit about what we're going to hear at 2:30?
Yeah, so we announced in, I think it was late July, to build 50,000 new homes in Hamilton over the next 10 years. Again, addressing one of the biggest concerns that people have in this community as we knock on doors, as we go to events: affordability, affordability, affordability. But obviously as well, it's not just about meeting the needs of families and workers, but it's also about meeting the needs of the most vulnerable in this community. And we see the unaffordability crisis and mental health crisis and addictions crisis playing out on our streets every single day. And that's another question that we get asked repeatedly. What are you going to do about those folks in our community that are houseless? And that's not just a downtown problem, although it is primarily downtown residents that are having to deal with this. But it's people who, out in Ancaster, out in Dundas, out in Flamborough, who I went into downtown and wow, things have changed, and they certainly have since the pandemic. So what we're announcing today is how we're going to aim to end encampments here in Hamilton by eliminating the affordable housing backlog here in the city. So of the 50,000 units that we need to build in Hamilton over the next 10 years, we're going to aim to build 1,000 affordable housing units each year over the course of that time. And that's about quadruple what we're doing right now. So we're only building 250 affordable units per year right now. That's obviously not enough. So again, 1,000 is kind of what we need to do to eventually be able to clear that backlog. And it's not just about units, but it's about building the supportive housing that the folks on our streets who are suffering from addictions and mental health issues need to be able to transition into a place where they have a roof over their head. So it's by working with the community, working with the not-for-profit groups who have right now over 3,000 units in the pipeline that are being held up in City Hall. So if we could just clear that backlog, we can meet our targets over the next few years. But by continuing to work with them and other folks within our community, so not just the affordable housing providers, but the for-profit developers as well, and groups like the Hamilton Community Foundation, and then of course working with both the provincial and the federal governments. It's obviously these are complex issues requiring a lot of folks at the table, but the point is we're not even trying right now. We need to bring these folks together, and we have that imperative. And so, you will see a new push in the next council, if I'm mayor, to clear these log jams and get these projects built.
And we're coming up to cold weather season.
Yeah.
Housing is a very complicated issue, and it will take lots of time to build new units. What happens if come November you're elected mayor and we start to see encampments popping up again?
Well, we need to get the tiny shelters proposal up and running on day one. That's one of the things that I'm committed to doing. Other transitional housing or shelters might be needed as well to be able to get through this winter. But again, it's an all hands on deck approach to dealing with that. Encampments, nobody is pro encampment in this community. What we need to do is actually work to get those folks off the streets into shelters, into places where they have a dignified living, where they have the supports that they need as well. And as I said, we're not even trying, but the thing is, we have so many folks in this community that are committed to this. All we need is the political will to bring them together.
What about the town hall series? What lessons are you learning from people by doing these events?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So one of the things that, as we've spread out across the community, and I've been everywhere in this community, and it's been really cool. Like, I've been experiencing this community in a way that I don't think anybody else gets the opportunity to do so. So I really value that. And I found that so many people, especially outside of the downtown, outside of the lower city, do not feel heard by or connected to this community. So one of the things we promised is that we were going to do a town hall in every single ward across the city in my first year in office, in conjunction with that ward councilor. It's a way to connect with those folks, but also to build relationships with the councilor as well, especially the new councilors. So I think it serves a dual purpose there. But to demonstrate that commitment, we've gone out we started in Stony Creek, we went to Binbrook, last week we were in Ancaster, this week we're going to be in Dundas, then we're going to the mountain, then we're going to Waterdown, and then we're doing one in the lower city as well. And every single one of them gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you just get amazing perspectives of the folks in that community. And you understand some of the things that they are really looking for, like a rec center in Binbrook or in Waterdown or in Winona even. Rec centers are really important to people. And here's what we're doing. We're building all these subdivisions, allowing the city to grow, but we're not planning correctly, right? We're not serving them with rec centers and we're not serving them with transit. So you get a really good understanding there. The other thing is, though, is the understanding of just how much we have in terms of similarities, regardless of where you live. So again, as I said, it's not just folks who are in the downtown that are talking about our houseless population. It's folks all around the city as well. And so you understand that we're not alone in dealing with this issue down here. In fact, the entire community is motivated to help in that regard. Safety on our streets is not just a lower city issue or a mountain issue. It's an issue everywhere as well. So you get to really stitch together the community and understand where there are specific requests and needs, but also where there are shared issues and challenges.
You mentioned at the start of the interview, the campaign's ramping up less than 3 weeks ago. Are we going to see more events or a different approach from you over these final few weeks to get your message out?
Well, what you will see is a number of endorsements that we will be rolling out. We're doing an announcement today on affordable housing, which kind of finishes the housing side of our platform. You're going to see more town halls as well. Some super canvases from us. It's about really connecting with people for us, and however we can do that, we will be out there in Hamilton over the next 3 weeks, and leaving it all on the table as the finish line approaches.
How are you feeling as we come to the end of this? Does your polling show a path to victory?
Absolutely. I think what you're seeing from my competitors would demonstrate that I've become a target for a reason. And so we definitely do have a path to victory. Got some good polling indications. And it's not just that, but it's about the type of buzz that is being generated in this community for change and for real generational change as well. So I can't help but walk into a Festitalia event, for example, which is a lot of seniors that have been attending those events, but who are absolutely coming up to me saying, "You've got my vote. I can't wait." And so I get asked, "What are your biggest surprises over the course of the election?" And it's been how desirous of change our seniors are, and how they've seen enough. They always say, "Oh, your competitors, they've had their chance. It's time for real change and for new blood," as I get at Festitalia events and any other event across the city as well. So that's been absolutely amazing.
You have a new campaign ad coming out today. What's the message you hope people take away when they see this video?
Well, it's a message of optimism. It's a message of a guy who is a family man, who is somebody who has really relished and grown into the job of advocating and being a change agent within his own community, and how that will manifest itself if I were to be in the mayor's office. So you see a little bit of my daily life and what that is like, and all the stuff that we've done over the course of the campaign and the people that we have connected with as well, and just the hope and optimism that people have for this city.
Thanks very much. That was a great interview.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Matt.
it.
Appreciate it.